I'm back with another edition of the Digital Minute for the RBMA Bulletin. My guest today is Tony Werner. He's the Principal Physician Consultant at CliftonLarsonAllen, or CLA. That's a mouthful, Tony. I hope I got it right. He serves as the multiple physician specialties, but we all know him as he specializes in radiology. Tony is also the co-chair of our data committee. So thank you, Tony, for taking time out to welcome on this Friday. Couple of questions for you. So first of all, I'd like to dive in with everybody. And thank you for your service with RBMA. How has your volunteerism with RBMA served you as an individual?
Well, I truly think that what you get out of life is what you put into it. You know, it's one of those things that volunteering at RBMA, whether it's, you know, through the formal volunteering like committees and that, or the informal things we do, we get more out of it than we put in. We're able to interact with individuals that are top of, you know, really leaders in the industry. It gives me the ability to, you know, interact with people that way, either on the committee or that. It also allows for us to be able to transmit knowledge and experience in that. And, you know, it's like nobody can be an expert at everything. So being able to talk with your peers and those type of things. One of the most frequent things, or one of the things I get the most out of it, is attending like the conferences like Paradigm or Sync, and that interaction there. You know, and getting to know people. Like, for example, Shannon, last fall, we were at the Sync conference and the strategic retreat, and I got to know you a lot better than I had before. So you get to do those kind of things. You only get that through volunteer.
True. Very, very true. I agree with all of that. So one of my favorite questions I ask everybody, because you never know everybody's story, but how did you get involved with RBMA?
Well, you know, the early part of my career was in radiology, but it was on the hospital side. It was on the system side and the hospital side. And I had a really good friend that I worked with, Mr. Jim Tierney, who has retired since. And he said, you really got to be I was part of AHRA, but he said, you really got to be part of RBMA. And so I started, you know, attending or being part of RBMA back at that time. I was also active on, before there was DICOM, it was the ACR NEMA sending those standards. My boss was like a co-chair or something, so he dragged me into being part of that. And that whole group, there was like a big part of it that was either part of ACR or RBMA.
Nice. I always think it's interesting to figure out how people kind of fell into the association, and were they drug in by somebody, or did they somehow randomly happen to find us? It's always kind of interesting. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so being the co-chair of the data committee, what is your favorite initiative that's been led by the data committee so far? And then is there something that you want our members to know about the data committee? Like, can they offer suggestions? Can they, I mean, obviously our call for volunteers just closed, but what is something that might pique their interest if they just don't know, hey, do I fit into the data committee next year when our call for volunteers opens, if they happen to watch this? What kind of advice would you give?
Well, I think, you know, I think on the data committee, we were trying to, you know, update what we're doing to better meet what members need, and doing that over the last couple of years. And I have to say, you know, I co-chair it now with Mark, but the leadership before me, before them, you know, we couldn't have done it without Neil or with the group that was in leadership before. They really kicked off a lot of this, and we're just trying to continue it. But one of the things we said is, it was really like the AR survey. It was difficult to take. It's a lot of work to put it in there. There was a lot of things that are there. You know, our results were provided in a paper format, essentially a PDF, and you print it out. And we kind of said, can we move this to where it's more, you know, in the 19th century instead of the 16th? So working with Jeff Mays and that team, and that being able to bring it to being electronic, having it be where it's interactive, you can actually do it. That was one of the most fun things that I got to work on as part of the data committee. And I only see us doing more. Because I think with our AR and our comp and like that, we're only touching the tip of what we need to have. So the more we can, you know, the first ask is, if there's data points we should get, let's start putting them on the list so we can start talking about how do we get them, what's the best net mechanism in doing it. The other thing that most people would kind of not agree with me in, but the data committee is also usually responsible for making sure that we get bulletin articles and hot topics and those type of things. Many times it ends up being that we don't have anybody, so we write them ourselves. I've actually enjoyed writing some of the articles and doing some of that and that, but my real plug would be, listen, this is for everybody in RBMA. Please, if you have things that you think you can share, like bulletin articles or things like that, or there's somebody within your organization that you think is an expert at something, let's get that out there. Please call us. Please help us get those type of articles in there, because it'll just make us stronger. Same thing with hot topics. If you think there's things that are going on, we try to monitor the forum so we can see what people are talking about and make sure that the hot topics are relevant to that. But if there's topics that members want to hear about, or we think, please send those to us so we can get it, because we're always behind and always need more. So it would only help. So
going into because the AR survey is currently open until next week. So it might be closed by the time this gets posted, but it was open. What is there anything new this year that we can look forward to from a results perspective as members, or from people who haven't taken it ever?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, Shannon, the survey is open, so any content, any learnings from the content in that, we'll present that at Paradigm with the presentation we're going to do there. We don't have that yet, can't tell you that. But for the survey, you know, last time was the first time we've ever tried to do the electronic stuff. Not everything, like you'd expect, not everything worked about 100% the first time, and there was some things in there. There was some questions. There was this little thing called COVID that seemed to impact everybody's revenue cycle processes. So we had KPIs with results that were things that you'd say were impossible to get, like a net collection ratio greater than 100%. Well, but it was because of the timing of when things went in and out. So we've looked at that. There was some other glitches in there. We think we've worked through all of those. We think we've improved how and what questions to ask and cut it down a little bit more. We also created a set of definitions and things like that that are available that you can hover over and you can see it, because there was also a lot of questions that always come in about what should go into this field and what should not. And so I think that the major stuff for this year that's new is just really taking that second step in what's going to be a dynamic journey.
You are presenting the AR survey information at Paradigm in Hollywood, Florida. As a seasoned attendee, would you have any advice that you would give to new attendees that might be joining Paradigm this year?
I would say, you know, as a first time or a new attendee, or as a young professional, because a lot of them are young professionals in that, I would say it's a fantastic opportunity for us to work and interact with some of the greatest minds, the most knowledge, the experience in there in the industry. Get involved, soak it in. Don't be afraid to go out and introduce yourself to other people, or be able to talk to the speakers afterwards, or, you know, one of the biggest benefits from being at Paradigm is those interactions with other people.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be where I was today without RBMA, 100%. And I appreciate everything that you do for RBMA and the data committee especially, and I can't wait to see the results of the AR survey.
Thank you.